There's been constant debate over the past 2 weeks answering this one specific question for the NBA. Who can actually win the NBA championship this season? Well, today I'm going to give you my answer. I believe there are only 6 teams with a chance to actually win the title, and the list is only going to shrink as the season progresses. The way I look at it is that the 6 teams I am choosing have the ability to win their conference first and foremost, and then they could beat the teams in the other conference. If I do not foresee a world where the team can win their own conference, I do not think they can win the championship this season, ultimately leading me to eliminate them from the conversation. My first wave of teams being eliminated are the obvious ones. I won't even mention them. The second wave isn't controversial outside of one team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I cannot stress enough how consistency factors into a team's chance of winning. Health factors into a lot of inconsistency for many teams, but in the case of the Timberwolves, they do not put together enough stretches where they show they can sustain their top defense, as they will have an amazing stretch and then boom, they cannot figure it out. And then on offense, they may be the most inconsistent offense I've ever seen, as they will go through stretches where it looks like no one can stop them, then immediately they turn around and cannot function if their life depended on it. There's just no way I can confidently say this team can win a title, and they are nowhere near a team that can win, in my opinion, right now. So they are going to be eliminated from my list, along with teams like the Kings, Heat, Suns, Magic, and Pistons in Wave 2. And the only reason it's controversial to say that, if at all, is because of the hype surrounding Anthony Edwards. The team is not good enough to win a title. It is that simple, and that's why they're eliminated. There's a little controversy in this next wave, but these 6 teams are not going to win the NBA championship, so let's just get them all out the way before we talk about our 6 champions. Starting with the Houston Rockets, a team that looked to have taken a thunder-sized leap in terms of record, has really fallen off of late. And even before that, I would have told you the Rockets could not win a title this year. The play of late has only solidified my belief about that. Houston cannot shoot nor create on offense and are completely handicapped on that end of the floor. The defense has some question marks surrounding their 2 best offensive players, and when you look at it all together, you get a team that really has no chance to win a title. And they're way too young, way too inconsistent. It's just, they're not ready. It's that simple. They don't have a premier number 1 option either that can take them over the hump. So saying the Houston Rockets could win the title this year is just not at all the truth. Staying in the West, I have the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that I think can shock us all and make a run in the playoffs this year. I would not be shocked at all if the Clippers made a conference finals appearance this season. However, I would not be shocked if the Clippers lost in the first round or even in the play-in. The range of how the Clippers season can go is probably the widest in the NBA, but one thing I can confirm is that they will not be able to win a title. I love everything about this team. I just do not love their track record in the playoffs, nor do I love their odds in certain matchups, specifically against the Lakers, Thunder, and Nuggets. Outside of those 3 teams, I think the Clippers could beat anyone in the West, but that also means they will not win the title in my definition, since they'll end up playing one of those 3 in the second round, of most likely, if they make it that far. One of the biggest wild cards for this postseason is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo with a healthy Bucks team could be dangerous for many teams. The 2 players are just too dominant individually. However, the team has so many flaws and their defense is atrocious. The only reason I have any belief in the Bucks making a run can all be traced back to Giannis and his postseason dominance when healthy. Dame is kind of a wild card in Milwaukee right now, and the team as a whole is just too inconsistent to confidently say they have a chance to win an NBA title this season. That is why they are eliminated for me. They could make a run. Doubt it. They're just not that good. If you thought any of the teams I just eliminated in this wave were controversial eliminations, well, just wait and see how controversial these ones are, as I eliminate the Memphis Grizzlies from the NBA championship conversation. I have not been a believer in this team all year. The size is still not to a champion's level. The depth is good but unpredictable. And outside of Ja, the team as a whole is unproven in a playoff setting. Offensively, I worry about the shooting in a playoff setting, and defensively, despite them being a good defensive team on paper, I see some holes that can prove to be detrimental. Luckily, by me saying the Grizzlies can't win the title this year doesn't mean I am counting them out for making a deep playoff run. But at the end of the day, Memphis will not beat OKC, they will not beat Denver, they won't beat both LA teams, and even the Warriors if I had to guess. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams they cannot beat in a playoff setting, if you ask me. The Clippers are a wild card with them, but yeah, I don't foresee the Grizzlies doing anything. And could they? Sure, but they won't win it all, and that's the bottom line. They will not win the championship this year, and they are eliminated from my contention. I'm sorry, Knicks fans, but 2025 is not the year your team gets over the hump. I do not in any way doubt the individual players' abilities. The duo of Brunson and Cat is an offensive nightmare combined with the three wings you have in your starting five, who are also great defenders. However, the issues I have seen defensively and even offensively at times are going to prove to be too much for them to overcome. As I mentioned earlier, with the Timberwolves, the team is just way too inconsistent to be a champion, and even more support to my point is the fact they will not beat Cleveland nor Boston in a 7-game series. Both teams have exploited them way too much already, and the Knicks will end up getting bounced in the second round. It's inevitable. This is not a champion, and the Knicks know it. Most of the media knows it, and I think most Knicks fans know it. This team is not good enough to win the title, and it sucks to say that, but it's the truth, and they will not win. The last Eastern Conference team to be eliminated in Wave 3 is going to be the Indiana Pacers, and I'm going to reiterate this. The Indiana Pacers are the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I said it last week, and I will say it again. I think the team is way too connected top to bottom and has figured out all of the issues it initially had early in the year. After a bad start, they have found their consistency, but they are still not a consistent team, and the volatile offense is not consistently putting up numbers. With that being said, if any team in the East, not named Boston or Cleveland, shocks us and comes out the East, it will be the Pacers. However, I do not think they will beat either of the top two teams, and that eliminates them from my teams that can actually win it all, since I doubt they'll come out the East. They could beat one of Boston or Cleveland, but they're not going to beat both, and that's just simply what it boils down to, and why the Pacers might be the third best team in the East, but they are not going to win the title. I would have started with the Dallas Mavericks as the first team that could win it all in my top 7, but after Kyrie Irving's season-ending injury, Dallas is officially eliminated from contention in my eyes, and it is heartbreaking. And now we're down to 6 teams. Fully healthy, I believe this Dallas Mavericks team would have a top 5 defense and a top 10 offense. So it is a shame that this is how their season ends up. Unfortunately, this injury will even hurt the team next season, as Kyrie will be out the majority of the following season. Absolutely heartbreaking, but before this, I truly believe the Dallas Mavericks could have won the NBA championship this season fully healthy. And now, well, we know it isn't possible at all. Now I finally answer your question. There are 6 teams that can actually win the NBA championship this season. Am I confident in the Golden State Warriors' ability to win an NBA championship? Absolutely not. I don't think this team is a good team top to bottom, but if you haven't learned this lesson yet, allow me to reteach you. In the playoffs, you must not doubt Jimmy Butler, and you better not doubt Stephen Curry. Are they a bad team? I would say yes. But did Jimmy Butler not just lead an inferior team to the finals 2 seasons ago? Has Steph Curry not made inferior teams competitive in his career? These two together cannot be doubted no matter how good their team is, since they both are 2 of the best players in this decade, and their playoff history says it all and says they can win it this year. Do I think they are? No. But together, they could find a way to make my assessment wrong. And unlike the teams I eliminated, I can see a way the Warriors win this year's title, as no one is going to want to face this team simply because of their historical dominance. Obviously, they are not going to be a clear-cut favorite to beat any of the teams in their path, but that hasn't stopped them before. I think they could beat Boston, as both of Boston's kryptonites are on this team. Cleveland scares me for them. Then in their own conference, in a 7-game series, they could beat OKC, LA, Denver, and Dallas, and anyone else in the conference. The only team I can't definitively say the Warriors would beat is Cleveland. Outside of that, the Warriors have a shot to beat everyone else, and understanding that and looking at it from the grand scheme of things, the Warriors can win it all this season. And that is why they are one of my 6 teams that can do it. Sleeping on the Denver Nuggets was one of my favorite things to do early in the year. I had doubts and concerns at virtually every position for them. They can't shoot the ball great. They don't have the best depth. Their entire team outside of one player is horribly inconsistent, and their defense isn't good at all. Nikola Jokic is the worst matchup in the NBA, though, and there is no way around that. The whole roster is going to play with a chip on their shoulder come playoff time, simply because they were embarrassed, not just last postseason, but continually throughout this regular season. Denver isn't a great matchup for anyone when they are clicking on the offensive end, and when that happens, they become unstoppable, and the defense becomes connected and can make up for most of their deficiencies. Nobody wants to face this team in a 7-game series, and although historically they have had issues, they have also found great successes in many areas, so counting out the Denver Nuggets makes no sense, especially considering that Jamal Murray is actually a good basketball player again, unlike last season. He was bad in the postseason. There's just no way around that. I honestly have Denver winning the West right now, and if the defense is consistent in the playoffs and the offense plays at the level we know it can be, the Nuggets have a great chance of winning it all. They are, in fact, a team that can win the 2025 NBA championship. I only have two Eastern Conference teams that I believe can win the title this season, Cleveland and Boston. I hope it's not a surprise. I just do not see anyone else in the East beating these two outside of each other. And if one gets upset, the other will cruise to a finals appearance. It is that simple. And sure, both could lose in the second round, but let's be honest, that's most likely not going to happen unless some crazy injuries or something happens. Looking at the Cavaliers first, I believe the only question mark of this team is Darius Garland. Offensively, Garland is back and doing his thing. My concern is on the defensive end for him. Obviously, he is undersized compared to everyone in the league, but he does not compensate for it in any way, despite him being one of the fastest players in the league. He's gotten better at it, but he can get exploited at the end of the day, and if he does, the Cavs could be in trouble. There are many nightmare matchups for him against Boston, who has 5 players that can play in the post. However, Boston is the only team that really can exploit that consistently enough to make it problematic, and there are questions about Boston's health right now. The Cavaliers do have some of the best defensive schemes in the league, as they run a very well-calculated man-to-man defense that can hide their defensive vulnerabilities, as well as an effective 3-2 zone. Game planning for this team has been amazing all year, and in a 7-game series, they will be able to adjust if needed. But as for right now, they have 50 wins and haven't needed to make any adjustments. And now with the chemistry at an all-time high, a new small forward in DeAndre Hunter, who is surely going to be an X factor, this Cavaliers team is the best we have seen in a while and can win a title. And at this current moment, I might actually have them as my favorite to win it all. Let me be on the record to say this, though. The Cavaliers' biggest weakness will be Boston. And if the Cavaliers make the NBA Finals, they are going to win it. I see no teams in the West that can match up well with the Cavs outside of OKC. And I have my worries about the Thunder. So right now, I don't even think that's who Cleveland would face in this scenario. I love this team, and even though they haven't proved anything under the bright lights, I am confident in them against all but a fully healthy Boston team. And yeah, Boston, man, they're just a great team, top to bottom, and are impossible to game plan for fully healthy. At least that's what we think. We do need to bring up the fact that Boston has struggled with Kristaps Porzingis in the lineup this season, and we must also highlight the fact Jrue Holiday will be out for an extended period of time, and it may spill over into the postseason. If that is the case, I lose a little confidence in this team, as Jrue is a crucial part to their success. Without Jrue Holiday, they don't have their captain that can lead by example and be the calming presence for the team. This is their leader as much as it isn't highlighted, and without him, Boston may get shocked early. But we know that this is the defending champions who have no shortage of floor spacing and elite defenders top to bottom, and understanding that they can put a team away as early as the first quarter allows many to confidently say Boston has no weakness. Boston does have a weakness, however. It is when they become unorganized and run and gun without hitting, and also getting beat at their own game, really, by teams. There are only 2 teams in the East that can beat them at their own game, Cleveland and Indiana. Outside of that, there is no weakness for them, and that is why the Celtics are the worst matchup for those teams. And I am confidently saying that if the Boston Celtics are able to beat both Indiana and Cleveland and make it to the finals, they will repeat as NBA champions. Honestly, right now, I think whoever comes out the East is going to win it all. That's just my prediction. The final 2 teams shouldn't be much of a surprise, as right now they're the 2 clear-cut favorites to win the West. We can start in Oklahoma City with the Thunder, though. I mean, they have one of the best defenses in NBA history, as scoring on this team is probably the biggest struggle for the majority of the league. 3 players that are top 6 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and all 3 are perimeter players. And on the interior, when healthy, they have 2 defensive forces in Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. Not really a recipe for success for opposing offenses. There are not going to be many ways to score on this team consistently enough to find success unless you're able to generate offense outside of your best player. That brings us to the thing, though. OKC is one of those teams that cannot generate offense outside of their best player, as SGA must carry the complete load offensively to make sure the team competes with other good teams. Over-reliance on Shea on the offensive end is the number one reason why OKC will not win the title this year if they don't. If the floor spacing around SGA was good and consistent, then there wouldn't be a question as to whether or not the team has enough offensive firepower to win the title. But the inconsistency behind the arc and limitations in self-creation outside of SGA have been glaring all season, and it is a kryptonite kryptonite. If an opponent finds a way to beat the OKC defense and can generate more points than SGA around it and limit turnovers completely, OKC will not be able to win a series against the team that does that, as SGA is the only one generating consistent offense in a half court. If J-Dub is able to be the go-to second option that can put up 23 points a night in a playoff series, Chet Holmgren gives you an efficient 18 and the supporting cast can knock shots down, OKC will not lose to anyone. The team is just too good defensively, and if they have consistent half-court offense outside of Shea, there's no recipe to beat this OKC team when it comes down to it. The more everyone else produces offensively, the more OKC becomes unbeatable. It is that simple. If OKC puts up at least 110 points a night and their defense is maintained, they're not going to lose a 7-game series. It's that simple. The sixth and final team that I believe can win an NBA championship is the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have been amazing in the Luka Doncic era thus far, and the only thing that you can really look at as a whole is their 5 position. Come playoff time, it might be a worrisome issue for the team, but right now, LA has enough there to be successful. Defensive talent is all over the place, especially off the bench with Vando and DFS, but their offense is going to be impossible to game plan for. You have 2 of the smartest, offensively dominant players in the history of the game and of right now in LeBron James and Luka Doncic. They have shooting all around the two, and combine that with the playbook that JJ Redick has implemented in his first season, you have a Lakers team that will be impossible to game plan for offensively, and the only way to stop them is to exploit their own defensive flaws. But if you let the Lakers get out and run in transition, you have no possible way of slowing this team down, and LA will outscore everyone in that regard. So as much as I would hate to see this, absolutely despise it. Worst thing that could happen this season. Yeah. What other words can I say about it? I just do not want to see the Lakers win a title. But the Lakers can win the NBA championship this year. And I am trying to be a reliable content creator for you all. And I look at this offense and I see no answer for it. And defensively, I feel like they can put together enough stops to let it all work out for them. So I strongly believe that the Los Angeles Lakers can win the 2025 NBA championship this season. So to answer the question, who can actually win the 2025 NBA championship? The only 6 teams I believe that can actually do it are as follows. The defending champions, led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the Boston Celtics. One of the best young teams we have ever seen in NBA history, led by MVP frontrunner Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with 3 All-Stars and one of the deepest teams in the league that has no shortage of offense nor defense, the dominating Cleveland Cavaliers. With easily the best duo in the NBA right now with Luka Doncic and LeBron James, the Los Angeles Lakers. Nikola Jokic, the best player in the NBA without question, has his Denver Nuggets looking to overcome the embarrassment of the past and win a second title in the last 3 years, and the dynasty that will not go away no matter how much some want it to. Having Stephen Curry in the postseason history of the Warriors is one thing, but with the addition of Jimmy Butler, the sky is no limit for how high the Golden State Warriors team can go. Boston, OKC, Cleveland, Los Angeles, Denver, and Golden State fans, get ready, because one of you 6 will be having a parade at the end of the season. For the other 24 teams, better luck next year. Don't forget to like and subscribe if y'all enjoyed. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. Bye.